before we get into the profession, school itself doesn't train us to work the way we are supposed to work on a day-to-day basis.
Welcome to the Archispeak podcast, the podcast for architects by architects, where we discuss all things about architecture. I'm Neil Pan. Each episode, Evan Troxel, Cormac Phelan, and me invite you in on the conversation as we talk about everything in the profession, both the good and the bad. Maybe you're considering a career in architecture, you're still in school, or you've been around the block more times than you'd like to admit. Join us in the studio as we gather around the water cooler and talk about this profession we call architecture. It's time for some Archispeak.
I died in South Africa, only outlined my body in Tiffany's blue. When I died, I drove riding and swam with the dolphins and Lisa Frank. And you.
Welcome to episode 58 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
And this show is actually sponsored by a returning sponsor, ArcCat, and another returning sponsor, Image Wizards, and a third sponsor this episode, which is a new sponsor, which is Roundhouse Labs. And they have a product called Roundhouse PM that we will be talking about a little later in the show. But first up, I think we have a friend of the show to announce.
That's right. We've got Jason Wagner, who is a new friend of the show. So he donated $31.40. And the reason why, Jason works at 314design.com. So thank you very much, Jason, for your support and becoming a friend of the show. And obviously, we've known Jason for a long time on Twitter. And it's great to see him show up in this way. So thank you so much for being a friend of the show. And anybody can become a friend of the show, and you can also become a returning friend of the show if you want at archispeakpodcast.com/donate. Any donation over $5 get your name read on the show, and we are eternally grateful. So thank you, and everybody go to archispeakpodcast.com/donate and help us keep the show going.
And then we also have some comments from our previous episode 57, where we talked about distractions and also strange neuroses of coworkers. So we got a couple of those come in. And I think one of the most popular ones seemed to be the clipping of the nails. We had several people bring that one up. So if you do that in the office, stop it. Don't do that.
So after the show, I had some people at work try to do all the things that I mentioned.
Oh, you know what? One hasn't been mentioned, but happens often in our office. Speakerphone.
Speakerphone, like in the main part of the office.
Well, like everybody's desk is like 5 feet away from each other, and so they want to have a conference call on speakerphone at their desk while everybody else is trying to work, and just carrying on and having conversations, some personal, some not. Just shooting the breeze with a contractor or whatever, and I'm just like, dude, just pick up the phone.
The funny thing about speakerphone is that it's like you're talking on walkie-talkies all of a sudden, right? And you have to yell, right? Everybody has to yell. Or it's like cell phone speakerphone when people are driving down the road doing the air quotes here, hands-free, holding their phone like a slice of pizza, talking into it.
Yeah.
Like they're about to take a bite out of the phone, but they're just talking.
Have you ever noticed that when you're on a conference call and everybody, like somebody will start to say something, if two people are trying to say something at the same time, they'll both just stop talking.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like how we do it on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, much like this.
Exactly.
No, go ahead. No, you.
No, you.
Go ahead.
Right,
go ahead.
Right. But another one was using the office phone like an intercom to find somebody. If you've got like 5 or 6 people in your office and you're calling around using the intercom to find people.
It's like my kids, man. Just start yelling out somebody's name in the house.
Oh, well,
just use your eyes.
What I like is when I'll ask one of my kids to, it's like, okay, go tell your mom. I live in a 2-story house.
Yell it out.
And so, yeah, they turn like 2 feet away from me and yell, "Mom!"
You're like
I could have done that.
I could have done that.
I could have done it more effective too.
Probably.
Actually, we've got another guy that he'll use the intercom to, like, ask somebody, hey, can you come into my office? And literally, he's like 4 feet away from the guy sits like right outside of his office. Using, can you come in? Like, can you just say it just a little bit more than a normal phone conversation, audio, and I could hear you ask me to come in your office or whatever. I used to sit by his desk, and he used to buzz me and say, we need to talk about this RFI.
That's as bad as, hey, did you just get my email?
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
Another one was not reloading paper when they're the last one to use it in either the printer or the plotter.
That's a good one. I didn't think of that one. I also, when I read that one, I thought of people who don't reload the coffee. Same thing.
Oh,
actually, leave it empty.
So which one's more offensive? For me, it's definitely the coffee.
Yeah, for sure, right?
Especially when, like, you're standing right behind the person who uses it last.
You hear that dreadful... I don't know if you guys have the pump-style coffee makers like we do.
Yeah.
And you hear the dreaded sound, the gurgling of the empty coffee can. And, and they just walk away.
And then...
I got mine.
Exactly. I'm like, no. You used it last. You better hook up the rest of the people.
So then there was this other one that it said that it just kept escalating, right? There were just the feuds in the office were escalating. People started talking in other languages so that they couldn't understand what they were saying, out loud swearing, and finally turning off the AC in the middle of summer to make people uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's hardcore.
Brutal. Yeah, so then the final straw here, after a small feud war over the AC control and turning it back on, he placed it on his desk, the AC controller, I guess, with a small note saying, if we touch the control, he would proceed to kill us. This is like Office Space. My red stapler. My stapler.
Is just classic. Wow.
He says it was the high-low point in his career. Looking back at it, I can fortunately laugh at the situation, but back then it was way more serious.
Nice.
Take it. Going postal.
Wow.
Jeez. Some people just need to take a break.
I was going to say, that's a healthy work environment.
Yeah. I'm sure there are even more stories out there. No one left us a voicemail. We're sorely disappointed here. Yeah. So where can people leave us voicemails? We're still collecting stories here, people. Don't give up yet.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. It is area code 415-484-8496. Call anytime.
That's right. We don't worry about what hour of the day it is. You can call anytime.
Yeah, don't worry about what hour of the day that my phone will be ringing. Because it comes through to my phone.
So
as long as it's not
think
mine.
about that, people.
Yeah, think about that. Yeah, exactly. So if you want to annoy Neil during the day or in the middle of the night, please, call 415-484-8496.
And if you just want to leave an audio of nail clipping.
That would be a good show intro. Why didn't we think of that?
Oh, jeez. Man.
Okay, so something else we mentioned last time, let's mention it again, is the Equity by Design workshop and hackathon that's happening at the AIA convention coming up on Wednesday, May 13th from 1 to 5 p.m. It's program code WE310, and it sounds like a really cool event. There's going to be a hackathon, which is a bunch of teams working together to come up with solutions to a big brainstorming session that they're going to be holding early on in the day, and then after the hackathon happens, there is a happy hour, which Cormac, I'm hoping you're going to go to, and the jury results at studio number 7. And so there's everybody who goes to the workshop and the hackathon is invited to the complimentary happy hour. So we need a bell. Ding, ding, ding. So everybody go to WE310 and hit up the Equity by Design folks and see what they're up to. They're up to some very cool stuff. And we hope to see everybody at the AIA convention this year.
Absolutely. And don't forget, we'll be doing daily episodes. And if you're interested in sponsoring one of those daily episodes, or perhaps all three, get in touch with us. Go to the website, archispeakpodcast.com, and you can email us through there. And let's talk.
All right, so what are we talking about this week? We're talking about something near and dear to Neil's heart.
Well, what I'm interested in, and what I wanted to talk a little bit about as the economy improves, and a number of us that follow us on Twitter, that we know through Twitter or through Facebook or something, many of us have gone through some hard times over the last 5 or 6 years, and a few of us are all out on our own. And it's as the economy improves and gets better, how do we handle growth? Right? That's kind of the question. There's a lot of things that spin out of that, but how do we handle this growth that we're hopefully all seeing right now as perhaps sole practitioners, or even larger firms, or small to mid-sized firms? How do you deal with, do you bring on somebody, and what does that really mean? I mean, at one point it was, you put an ad in the paper and you hire somebody, right? And that person, you part-time or full-time or something, and they work out of your office. And I think there's a lot of questions that come up about that today. Do you need to go that route?
Like, what's a paper?
Well, yeah, what's a paper? Craigslist? But not only that, but I think, is it also possible to, or more likely, I know Mark LePage has gone from having an office and people coming into that office, as he's talked about, where now he's moved away from that model, and he's working in his home office now, and his former employees now work remotely, and they kind of collaborate together using some different software to make that sort of happen. For coordination and such. So I'd really like to touch a little bit on each one of those things, and maybe ask our audience to chime in to the comments, either on the website or on our Facebook page or through Twitter, and tell us about how they're managing it as well, as a spinoff to our conversation, and then to provide their tips of what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then also too how they're making this coordination work. What sort of model is everybody looking at? Bringing somebody into an office, I guess. For a lot of us that are working from home or in a home office situation, how do you take that next step? Do you go work collaboratively with some colleagues, maybe rent a space? Or I know there's other types of spaces where maybe you rent, or not even rent, but you maybe go in and work during the day, like a co-working sort of situation. Mm-hmm. I'd really like to hear either what your guys' thoughts are on that, or certainly our listeners' thoughts on how they're doing it, and what their thoughts are on some of these ways to do it. So, I mean, that's kind of kicking it off. I've got more questions to go on that, but I kind of wanted to get your guys' take on it as well.
I've got a couple
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead. I was just going to say.
Wait, what?
No, I've got a couple questions, but they're more like specific for people that kind of work through their home office. But go ahead.
My initial thing is, I mean, we're going through a boom in communication, right? There's so many ways to communicate now that the virtual office and the virtual studio seems to make a whole lot of sense, especially with the way that creative people work. I mean, we are a global community now with the internet and with all the different tools that are available to us. And we all have these communication devices in our pockets all the time. And so it is easier than ever to have accountability, to make sure things are actually happening. Gone are the days, it seems, of, oh, you didn't get my email? If people are using those excuses, it's pretty easy to figure out what's really going on there. Because nowadays, things really do work pretty reliably, right? And like I was saying with the tools, there's Box, there's Slack, there's Basecamp, there's so many of them out there, and this really isn't a podcast about the different tools, but it is easier than ever to be connected on every one of our devices. So I think that does make a lot of sense. But at the same time, I don't think that we want to always be working without each other. I mean, a company that I follow that's not an architecture firm, but that really utilizes the remote working situation is the people at Basecamp. And Jason Fried and David Hannemeyer Hansen wrote a book called Remote. It's really good. And they also, before that, wrote a book called Rework, which is just about a different way to think about working based on the times that we're living in. And like I started off saying, when you're talking about people who work in a creative industry, creativity does not happen on a schedule. And so, for instance, I have some friends who have their own office at home, and they employ a draftsperson. She does live locally, but they barely ever see her because she gets to work whenever she wants on the project. I mean, that's kind of what happens when you're dealing with people who are consulting, right? You don't get to tell them when to do the job. You just tell them what you need and when you need it by, and they get to decide when to do it. And I think that's really where the freedom comes with all of these types of software that we have to connect us, is that if I want to go to my kid's soccer game on Saturday and then watch a movie with my wife and then work after that, just like I did when I was in studio, that would be totally fine. I mean, that's really... just think back to when you were in architecture school. You just worked and you just got the thing done by the deadline. There was no keeping track of the hours that you spent on the project. I mean, most of us are getting paid salary anyway. It doesn't seem to make a heck of a lot of sense to track the hours that we actually work. But there's still a lot of people in our industry who have that ass in seat mentality. If you're not in your chair at your desk, you're not doing your work. And exactly. I mean, that's old school now. I think that's just not how it works anymore.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because we're trained before we get into the profession. School itself doesn't train us to work the way we are supposed to work on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you said it best, I mean, we kind of worked whenever we felt like it. We knew what the work had to be, when it needed to be done, what the milestones were, what, like intermediate deadlines were and things like that. And if, say, I had to go take my kids to the doctor or something like that, get up, go take them to the doctor, then come back and work. And if it's, working from, say, 9 at night to 11 o'clock at night, just to make up those few hours or something like that, are a lot easier. And to be quite honest with you, I think that, we've talked about numerous times this work-life balance type thing. And everybody's just like, haha, what is that? I clock in at 7 in the morning and I leave at 10 at night, and, I'm always working and stuff. And maybe if you had something a little bit more flexible, maybe you have a little bit more of a work-life balance. Yeah, I totally agree. There's definitely that mentality still lingering out there that you put in the 7:30 to 5:30 or the 8 to 6 or whatever it is, or more, right? There's definitely cultures in firms that the indentured servitude of architecture still lives very strong. Very strong. So, but then there are other companies out there and firms, and I think this is probably one of the bigger reasons why a lot of people do start their own thing, is because they want to control that, and we should all be endeavoring to work smarter, not harder, right? So I think that people are catching on to that, and really they're basing their success and their I don't want to say time cards, but the time that they spend on the outcomes of what they're doing. It's interesting you say that too, because when we fill out our timesheets every week, and you're charting all of your hours, and the project managers are charting the hours that each person puts towards each project and stuff. And I look at some people who sit there and they work, and you look at the status of the project, but you look at the number of hours, and it's just are you racing to see who's got more hours on a project than somebody else? And is that working towards the benefit of the project, benefit of you? It's kind of interesting how, excuse me, some of the more conventional firms, and I work for one of those, that kind of a 9-to-5 kind of thing. Dude, if you're there, you're expected to be working. It's not. It is an older model, and that's going to lead to some of my questions, especially for Neil. Is that a healthy model?
Well, I wanted to ask also too, if you're a one person shop like I am, and like a number of our listeners are, what are the thoughts of growing? I mean, one of the situations I'm in is, how do I handle more work? Because there's a fundamental problem is that there's only so much work I can actually do, right? So I'm doing remodels and additions, smaller projects. It takes a certain amount of time to get those done. And if I look at the income that I'm receiving from those projects, there's only so many of those I can get done in the hours that I can actually get work done, or even over a period of months or something. If I've got all the work I can do, there's only so much I can do. So there's the problem of, okay, I'm sending out proposals, and what happens if they all come back in and everybody's ready to go and they want to get started? So you've got this fundamental challenge of, okay, well, if all of these projects come in, I don't want to turn any of them down. I don't want to tell them to wait 2 months or something till I'm ready. So then what do I do? Do I then look at getting some help? And does that help? Again, now I go back to, is it an employee? Is it somebody part-time? Is it because of the ability to go virtual? Do I find somebody that can do it virtual? Or do you partner up with, say, co-locating with, say, somebody else where you can maybe help each other out? And if I'm a little slow, I can help you out or something. And is that the genesis of essentially creating a new firm? And there's one fundamental problem that I've seen that is an issue today, that, say, maybe a number of years, I'm going to say pre-CAD, it wasn't really an issue. Pre-CAD, everybody drew by hand. So if you're in this situation and I need to have a draftsman, or I'm going to join up with somebody else that is going to help me out on a project, we all just sat down and we drew it. Today, we have this other complication of, I don't use that program. Or I use this one, you use that one, somebody else knows this one. They don't really know each other's programs. So if you're trying to even like partner up with some people, there becomes this fundamental block of, well, I don't use, Revit or something, and I use Vectorworks, or I use Archicad. I mean, name your program. But if everybody doesn't know their other programs, then it makes it much more difficult to, even for like 2 or 3 people that might be running their own firms, and we all live locally here. It's like, well, I don't necessarily need help this week, but I need somebody next week, and you need somebody this week. It'd be great if we could all kind of have somebody that we could share, but it's really tough to have somebody that knows 3 or 4 different programs and can be efficient on all 3 at the same time.
Yeah, I think there's several topics in there.
I'm sorry.
That's huge.
I don't know the answer to that second part there with the different platforms, because I really do feel like that is probably a pretty big problem. But because we're so globally connected, again, there are people out there who use everything, right? You just probably don't know who they are. So that's where user groups come in. That's where forums online where people are congregating and talking about using those, where it's probably easier to find somebody who actually does. I mean, there's lots of outsourcing type websites where you can hire people who, and they're going to say what they use. So it's probably not that hard. But back to the first part, if you're always reacting to potential work, I don't know how you're ever going to do that well enough to be profitable. If you're constantly looking, let's say you've got 4 different proposals out, how many of those are you going to get back? What's your hit rate on that kind of thing? And then what's your strategy? What's your plan? Where do you want to be? How many projects do you need to have going? How many do you want to have going? How much money do you want to make this year? I think we have to think bigger than, I've got 4 proposals out this week. I'm going to do 2 next week. I'm going to do 1 the week after that. And what happens if all those jobs come in? And if you don't even try to answer those questions, or if you don't have a strategy before you start putting those proposals out, I don't think it's going to be a very successful endeavor. You're either going to have too much work, and now all of a sudden you've got to find somebody to fill a hole. And what are the chances you're going to find somebody you can trust to do that work? It just seems like it leads to so many more problems. And then what are you doing? You're not drawing anymore. You are coordinating over email all day long and doing accounting and checking people's hours and doing the billing. And so, again, I think if that's your strategy to run a business, maybe that's part of that. But I think most of us got into this business to do the work, too. So you really have to define what you want first before you jump head first into all that stuff.
Well, I think it's an interesting problem that many people that have been sole practitioners over the last 4, 5 to 6 years haven't had the problem to deal with, I guess, or haven't had to really think that far ahead. If you're fortunate enough, you've had enough work or you've had enough work to do to keep you busy. That's great. But many of us have kind of just been going from one job to the next and hoping you get some projects. And I think, at least for me, so maybe I'm the only one here. So if you're listening to this and you're having a similar problem like me, let us know, because maybe I am unique here, but I don't think so, where this is a new problem for me as a sole practitioner. I mean, when I was first laid off 6 years ago, it was like, well, okay, things are pretty bad for a little right now. I'll kind of lay low. Hey, I've got a license. I can go do some work myself. I can put my name out there, and, I could pick up a few projects a year and at least bring in some income. And now it's like, now I'm really, after building for several years, it's like my name is out there more and people are actually calling now. So I don't have that strategy yet because I haven't had to deal with it. So poor planning on my part, I suppose.
Well, I don't think it's too late, but you've got to do it. You have to actually do it. And it's not easy, but it's not something you couldn't do this weekend either. I mean, you could definitely get a lot of that. Just get a big roll of trace and lay it out on the table and start figuring out your strategy for the next 3 months, 6 months, year, whatever. 90 days is probably a good number to shoot for in the beginning, and just figure out what's your purpose as a sole proprietor. I mean, how much money do you need to bring in? Is it just more than zero, or is it $50,000 or $100,000? And then you can start to reverse engineer things. Okay, if I need to make that much money in 3 months, how much do I need to make every week? And then how am I actually going to fulfill that work? Is it just me? Is it 2 people? Is it 1.5, right? But I think if you actually have a goal written down, and of course it's going to change, but, you can actually start to go back and reverse engineer that stuff and figure out the small steps that need to happen, because, man, that big step is intimidating, right? If you have 3 jobs that hit at once, what the heck are you going to do all of a sudden to take care of that? It's going to be really tough.
Yeah. No, it's all good points, and it's. I think these are all issues that a number of people out there are likely dealing with. That's part of the reason I wanted to talk about it.
It is not just sole proprietors and small firms; it's big firms too.
Well, that's where I was going to go next. Is how do larger firms manage this workload, and you guys work in bigger firms. So I wanted to get you've heard my take. Now I'm curious, how do your firms have been handling this, I should say, over the last, say, 6 months or so, where we've seen this very large increase in work. I mean, this is a great thing. 2 plus years ago, when we started this podcast, things were a little different. Now we're entering into a stage where, how do you manage your workloads in larger firms or mid-sized firms and bringing on additional staffs? And what are the strategies, from your experiences that you're seeing?
Okay, hold that thought and we'll get back to that in just a second. We'd like to thank our newest sponsor, Roundhouse Labs, and they make a brand new product that's out called Roundhouse PM. Roundhouse PM is an online communication tool for architects, engineers, owners, and contractors, or just about anybody in the design or construction world who needs to share critical information. That's everybody, right? Roundhouse PM is essentially a platform for tracking project information like construction documents, RFIs, submittals, pay applications, and more. Roundhouse PM has a unique Sky View dashboard that allows you to view the current status of not just a single project at a time, but a firm-wide snapshot of all your active projects sorted by urgency. Imagine the time saved by logging into one place to get an overview of how many outstanding RFIs or submittals your entire team has at any given time. Roundhouse PM was developed by industry-leading architects to enhance their own business and profitability, and it was such a success, they've refined it and are offering it to the general AEC market. It's just a great communication management tool because it's amazingly useful on a single project level, at a studio level, or at a firm-wide level. It's such a great communication management tool because it's amazingly useful on a single project level, at a studio level, or at a firm-wide level, and it's very affordable. Go to roundhouselabs.com to learn more about what they're up to and visit them at the AIA convention in Atlanta at booth 3283. That's booth 3283. Write that down, in the Software and Technology Pavilion. Roundhouse PM is a construction communication hub, but we like to say, get in the Roundhouse. So thanks, Roundhouse, for sponsoring the Archispeak podcast.
Well, it's interesting right now. And I've seen this not just in our firm, but in other firms as well, that, we've had a lot of, like interns go back to school and things like that. And, we've been having a lot of work done by them. And we still are in this mindset of being a little gun shy on hiring new people, because we're not quite sure whether or not this uptick in jobs coming into the office and stuff are going to last, because we're still a little worried about recessions and things like that. So, we've been reluctant, and I've seen other firms reluctant to hire people. And, it puts a huge burden on the existing staff, because where they were doing like 1 or 2, maybe 3 projects at a time or something, now they're, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14. So it's kind of rough, because you're basically overworking people. And I don't know if, Evan, you guys are doing the same thing, or if you guys are actually hiring and stuff like that. But, I've seen a lot of gun-shy people out there right now, not sure how to handle the increase in work, and whether or not it's real, or if it's just something that's fleeting.
Well, I think this is a big thing. I don't think that too many firms are actually being gun-shy. I think firms that are, I think that's probably not a good take on the situation, because there are firms out there like the one that I work for, man, we're trying to hire like crazy. And so the firms are all competing for the best talent out there. And because of that, a lot of people are moving around in the industry, in the profession, because they are looking for more money, closer commutes, and opportunities are out there because there are so many projects hitting right now. And I think if firms are waiting because they don't know, man, it's going to be a huge mistake, because what that does is it leads to burnout, right?
Yeah.
So I think that people are getting hiring bonuses right now for going to other places. Like I said, we're hiring like crazy, and I think that it's a employees market right now. It totally is. And I feel like firms like us are actually trying to stop the bleeding more than we're probably talking about, because people are moving around so much. And I would also say that because we're trying to stop the bleeding, we're trying to find ways to attract people, and there's a lot of creativity going into that as well, because it is a good place to work, and there are good people there, and we want to figure out how to maintain those. So it's kind of the opposite problem of what we were talking about just a minute ago. But but there's a lot of, and the thing that I'll say is, people are moving around a lot because they think somewhere else is better. Everybody has the same freaking problems. And what I'd say is, the grass is greener because it's fertilized with bullshit over there. I mean, it's there. It is not better. It's just the same problems. The place that you work at, the advantage you have is what the problems are. That's not a happy thing to say, but I think it's kind of. I totally
it's the reality.
I think that it is an employee's market right now, and people can use it to their advantage. There are definitely epicenters across the country and across the globe that have way more work than other places, I'm sure. But if you just search the job boards, you can totally see where those places are. It's not hard to find this information.
Right.
So, Evan, you're totally right about the employee market right now. I have a friend of mine that was recently found himself looking for work, actually, and after a few weeks, suddenly was getting several responses and actually ended up having a couple of firms bidding for him. And it was actually kind of created a little bit of an awkward situation that, maybe we can talk about a little bit more later, but where how do you handle that as an employee or a potential employee where you've got, okay, one firm's offering you this, and then you interview at another firm and they offer you something else, but you'd really like to maybe work at the other firm, but these other guys are offering a little more, and it creates a really interesting dynamic, which we can maybe explore a little bit. But fortunately for him, I mean, it worked out great, and ended up going back and forth a little bit. And like you say, firms are looking and competing for the best talent, and it fortunately worked out really well for him. So this is a good time. This is the first time we've really seen this type of market in probably at least 7 years or more.
It's interesting you say that because I responded to a friend of the show's tweet that was like, stop it. 66% accept an offer without negotiating any aspect of it. And then it was like, how do you negotiate the salary benefits that you deserve? And, it's kind of interesting that we're getting to that point now where at one point in time we would just take whatever job we wanted to. And now that we're in a much better time in our profession, we're able to negotiate better salaries, better benefits, and things like that, which are, you're right, Evan, it is the employees market out there.
And this isn't anything new. I mean, for those students in school right now, if you're just getting out, this is a great time to be getting out of school. Hopefully the next 3 to 4 or 5 years are going to be good times, and it's a great time to be getting out of school. But I mean, those of us who have been around the industry for a little bit longer know that this fluctuates. When I first got out of college, it was a bad time to be graduating. Jobs were very hard to find, and you had to do pretty much like you said, Cormac. You just, okay, you're going to offer me $25,000 a year and no benefits? Okay, yeah, I'll take that because it's better than sitting on the couch at home. And then there was a period a few years later where kids coming out of college were getting offered more than I was as a licensed architect that had been working there for 3 years or 4 years already, just because you couldn't find people. And so it was that crazy time. And then, of course, the bottom dropped out again, and then it came back, and then it dropped out again. So, yeah, this definitely goes in cycles. And right now, fortunately, we're in a really good upcycle.
It's true. Yeah, it's totally true. I think that this also is something that small firms have to deal with, is that competition. So to me, it really comes down to what do you stand for? I mean, there's especially the millennial generation cares about connecting with people, cares about their cause, cares about doing work that matters, doing something that's meaningful. And I think it's important for firms to state what that is so that you can try to align yourself with people who are like-minded. I mean, really, when you're interviewing a firm and when that firm's interviewing you, they're looking for somebody that's going to fit well with the people that are there. And so whether you're sole proprietor or whether you're a firm of 400, they're still looking for people that are like-minded, right? And so I think that if you're a small firm and you're looking to grow and you're looking either for somebody full-time or you're looking for somebody virtual, it kind of doesn't matter if you're looking for young people who are graduating to maybe kick your firm up a notch in technology and all that good stuff, then you've got to really you've got to state what it is that you care about, what it is that you're out there to do. Because you look at places like Architecture for Humanity and you look at different causes like that are going on out there, there's some really neat stuff happening, and you'll notice that there's a lot of young people in those, and so that's what seems to be the thing that's attractive. Anyway, would you like someone to draw CAD details for you, create BIM objects for you, write specifications for you, and would you like someone to do this for free? ARCAT has already done all this for you. You can search the ARCAT libraries for these products and more, free of charge, no registration required to download content. ARCAT has created a website devoted to you, the building professional, for finding building product information fast and hassle-free. Check out ARCAT today at ARCAT, that's arcat.com. And thanks again, ARCAT, for being such a great sponsor to the Archispeak podcast. You can sign up for show notes at archispeakpodcast.com on just about every page, and we include links to all of our sponsors in those show notes. They get emailed to you the night before the episode goes live. There's also links to the shows where you can comment on the shows as well. So everybody also go over to archispeakpodcast.com and sign up for the show notes. And those are the only emails that you get by doing that, but it helps everybody follow along with the show with all the links and stuff that we've got in there. So everybody check out arcat.com, and thanks for sponsoring the show this week.
So, Neil, real quick, when I was out on my own, and we kind of just basically rented a space that one of the three partners that we kind of went in together, it was just three college friends that went to work together. One of them had kind of like a guest house that they had owned, and we used that as our office. So, we had, essentially kind of like the dining room was our conference room, and, we just kind of set up desks and stuff like that and made it something where we could have a good workspace, a collaborative workspace, and also a place to bring our clients if need be. But when we were first starting out, and this is something that I wanted to ask you about, is, we were basically working out of our houses, and we would meet up with each other, since it was at the time, really, it was kind of an office of two. And, we would meet up at like Starbucks and stuff like that to kind of like, talk about business and things like that. But then we would also meet up with clients at places like that. And, we were always worried what the impression was from potential clients if we weren't meeting in an actual office space or a conference room or something like that, and we were meeting at some place that was more casual. How do you actually deal with that? I mean, is that a perception that you even worry about, or is that something that is, just now that we're starting this trend of really kind of like remote working and things like that, does it really matter?
That's a great question, and I think it really sort of depends on the type of work that you may be doing. And let me explain what I mean by that. In my case, I'm doing a lot of additions and remodels right now. And so in that case, I typically meet the clients in their house, because that is the project is Sure. their house, and I need to see that. It's usually the easiest thing to do to actually meet them in that location. It's rare that they want to actually meet me in my office, quote unquote office, air quotes here. I have done that before. I do have a dining space that is in the front of the house that I can bring people into the front door and do that. But there is definitely a perception of I am a small architect who's working out of his house. And I think the perception, and this is part of the problem that I'm having, is that perception then tells a potential client that, oh, okay, well, his fees should be lower, right? I should be getting a deal on this because he's not paying overhead, employees, whatever, and he's working out of his house. So there is that is a problem. So I think that if I did have a space or a collaborative space that I shared with several people, I think there's the benefit of I could meet clients there if I wanted to. I could make that as an offer. I don't ever really even offer. Usually first time I meet somebody, I usually go to their house anyway, but it would be great if I could offer, yes, you can come down and meet me in my office, or come down for a meeting in my office space. And I think that would give a perception of a larger firm, maybe justify a higher fee. And I think that'd be great. I think there's another benefit to that, that I also wanted to talk about tonight, which was everybody's doing all this virtual collaboration, but there is something that, so much more that you can gain by talking to somebody in person, just like if they're at the next desk over a few feet away, hey, can you look at this? I mean, it's kind of that spontaneous thing that could happen. I know we talked about earlier in the episode about being able to have flexible hours and, work whenever, and maybe I'm working at night and you're working during the day or something, but having that somebody there or three other people that you can collaborate with, where just like at the moment, right? It's like, I got a problem right now, and hey, you got a second, and those types of conversations can happen very easily in an office or a collaborative environment where you're there at the same time and working. And I think that I'm curious how others handle this in this virtual office. I know we can share files, we can share screens, we can look at the screens and talk at the same time, and maybe that is enough. But sometimes you may not be available at that moment, right? Or due to time zones, right? Somebody, Cormac, you're on the East Coast, so when you're having dinner, it's still late in the afternoon out here, and so I may not be available if you've got a question, or vice versa. You're having dinner, I'm still working, so. How do you deal with that in a virtual environment when it's like, I can't just at a moment's notice see you right there and say, hey, you got a second, I want to ask you about this, or, do you have an idea on this?
Well, I mean, we've been just in our firm, and the previous firm I worked for, they did that as this as well. And I mean, it's the go-to meetings, the inter-office video conferencing and stuff like that. That really does help. I mean, we're working on a project right now where, they're in a couple of different counties away from us. And, it's easier, we've got, civil engineers, a couple hours away. We've got some of our engineers that are a little bit closer to us, so that could actually come into the office. And then we've got the client and stuff. And a lot of times it's easier to have everybody in the same room. Sure, so that, we can sit and kind of talk off of each other and just, but, when that's not possible, the go-to meeting really does kind of help out, because you still are able to get everybody in the same room. It's just they're in their own rooms, but you're still able to have that flow in that conversation, and people are able to still see, and in some ways it's actually a little bit easier, because you throw something up on the screen and everybody can see exactly what you're talking about, rather than sitting at the table and then everybody's got to kind of get up and kind of hover around a single drawing or something like that.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just, I got my grandpa pants on here or something, and I'm like,
no,
get off my lawn.
No, it's absolutely
is not going to work virtually. I don't know. Maybe I need to break free of that, and maybe the millennials listening to this episode, I don't know what this guy is talking about. He's just like, this is the way we do it nowadays. Get out of the way, old man. I don't know.
No, there's still something about the face-to-face meeting that is still absolutely mandatory for a project. But then there are times that, a virtual meeting is just as applicable.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that you can actually replace face-to-face in-person stuff. It's too valuable. There's nuance to it that you can pick up on somebody's slight facial expression, body language, that you just don't get on a go-to meeting or through a chat. There's just no way. That's not to say that those tools aren't valuable and important. I think that you have to set up some kind of a system where face-to-face meetings happen on some sort of regular basis. I mean, it has to happen like that, but it doesn't have to always happen like that. So as far as the way we work, there are tools that can augment it. There are ways to archive things and make paper trails, or to table something. And when somebody is in a different time zone, they can pick it up and run with it because it's there waiting for them. That's all great, but it's not going to replace the face-to-face stuff that we should really fight to hang on to. It's that important, I think.
Yeah, I think for meetings or for just general, I think these methods can work fantastic, and we should be using those tools, right? And not spending hours in a car just for a 10-minute meeting. I think where I'm coming from on this side is thinking more from as the firm, as a sole firm owner. If I'm trying to grow and I'm either need to bring on somebody that is, say, a younger staff member, how can I do that? Can I have that person help me when he or she is just virtual all the time? Or even if I'm trying to partner up with, say, a couple of people that are like myself, sole practitioners with our similar types of experiences, and if we can work in the same environment, we can then feed off of each other a little bit. And that's more what I'm thinking of when I'm talking about working in a collaborative environment, and where those types of meetings probably don't work. You know, if I've got a colleague that, in fact, I've got one that lives here in town, another one that lives about less than 10 miles away, and I think it would be great we actually, all three of us used to work together at the same firm. That's how I know them, and I think we could all benefit by our own designs and helping each other out if we could have that conversation a little more often than, say, once a quarter, when we typically might get together for lunch, but we're not working together right now anyway. But I don't know if that meeting is a substitute for that. And that's kind of where I was saying that I don't know when my other colleagues are available. They may not be available the afternoon when I'm sitting here working on a design, when I'm stuck on something. And that's where I'm thinking that if you're in a similar environment or together in an environment, we'll just call it the office, right? If you're in the office, you have that ability to talk to somebody.
Absolutely. See our last episode on distractions.
Exactly. So I think these are interesting problems that I think for a lot of us are the first time where we may be having to deal with this on our own. And then I think it scales up to larger firms that, like you guys work at, is how do you then manage all of these different aspects of either flexible work hours and the collaboration and the different virtual meetings, and then also managing workload, right?
Yeah. Well, we can finish up with that. Let's first talk about Image Wizards. So this week, Archispeak is sponsored by Image Wizards, the inventors of printing digital photos on aluminum. Image Wizards uses cutting-edge technology to produce prints that are so vivid and detailed that it's comparable to seeing HD television for the first time. For interior designers and architects who need the best medium for showcasing artwork and photography, there is no substitute for Image Wizards. Check them out at imagewizards.net. And make sure that you tell them that Archispeak sent them. Their product is environmentally friendly. It's made of 94% recycled aluminum. It qualifies for LEED credits. Their process releases no VOCs, volatile organic compounds. Their framed prints can be mounted with wire or security mounts. They're scratch resistant and waterproof. And the Rochester Institute of Technology's Image Permanence Institute, they got 2 institutes in their name, rates our prints at 100 plus years longer than any paper-based medium. They offer proofs on actual aluminum, so you know exactly what you're getting before the final print. They've done work for Google, Facebook, Lockheed Martin, BMW, Harley-Davidson, Jimmy John's, Northrop Grumman, and more. So everybody go check out Image Wizards. I know last week in the show notes, Neil put a picture in there, and it, to me, it looked like Neil just pulled an image off of Image Wizards' website, but he didn't. It was a photo of the thing that they actually sent him, and it looked pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. It's actually up on the wall in my son's room now.
The quality is amazing. It's super vivid colors, and so it's different. It's something that is eye-catching because we don't see this all the time. So everybody check it out, imagewizards.net, and thanks Image Wizards for sponsoring the show. All right, Archispeak audience and listeners, we normally keep these shows to about an hour long, and that's probably what you were thinking is they should be wrapping it up right about now. But the truth is we didn't, and we just kept talking for another 45 minutes to an hour. And so what we're going to do here is release that as our next episode, because there's also, we think, some really good points in there. So look for that in 2 weeks, and for now, that's the end of this show, and I'm going to let Neil wrap it up here for the end and thank our sponsors. See you guys in a couple weeks. All right, let's wrap it up.
Let's see. So if you have any questions or comments, remember, visit our website at archispeakpodcast.com. There you'll find links to our individual Twitter accounts and the Archispeak Podcast Facebook page, where you too can join in on the conversation. And if you have comments about this episode or anything else you'd like to share with the podcast or with Archispeak, call us at 415-484-8496. We're feeling kind of lonely on that. We haven't heard from anybody. And lastly, but not last, we want to really thank our sponsors. They are making this possible, and they are bringing it to you. And that would be ArtCat and Image Wizards, and our new sponsor this week, Roundhouse Labs. We really appreciate everything they are doing, and please visit each one of them and let them know you heard about them on this show.
And don't forget, we're going to be at the AIA convention, so check out the Twitter account for Archispeak, that's ARCHISPK, and follow us there so that you are notified when we go live with our daily shows, and also if we get the whole Periscope thing working, we want to hopefully do some live streaming from the show floor and things that we're seeing when we're out at the convention. So check us out on Twitter so that you're in the know when that stuff happens.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
All right, good night.
Later.
It's unpredictable as she